action. I had to do that because it's funny. So, 56 Corvette project. You guys have seen me start on this thing a couple times, and then some wrench gets thrown to work, something else takes precedence and priority, and I end up burying it back in the shop. So, when Mike Summers needed a car, an Ambil trailer, the one that built the stacker for me, which is so badass. I had that 64 Chevelle. That's a great car. I was actually thinking about putting small tires on it, racing it in small tire. When he needed a car, I pulled the motor transmission out of the Chevelle. This motor is a 612 Callie's crank, pro top line heads, solid roller, blah blah blah. Oliver steel rods, 12/8 to 1. I thought, you know what, that's a perfect motor for that Corvette. And then I get to thinking. So this motor made 890 on the dyno. 895. 895 on the dyno. With a different intake. I think there's a better intake. So it should make somewhere right around 900. And I got to thinking, you know what? Scott Duggins has got a cool little program he does with a 615 and a blower shop blower that makes 1,700 horsepower. So then I get thinking, but that's on methanol. So I think, how can I drive the car and still put boost to it? So I dug out my mechanical system. I got a Holley, not the Terminator, it's a Stealth. So it's got the 800-pound injectors in it. So what I'm trying to do, and what I'm going to do, I hope, is I'm gonna put the mechanical fuel system down in the intake. Do this as a flow through, where you drive it on pump gas, reach over and pull the fuel pump bypass, and it's on methanol mechanical. That way, I can have the best of both worlds. So I'm going back to my rule of, if I can't put pump gas in it and drive it, I'm not going to own it. Now, don't get me wrong. We're only talking about putting 12, 15 pounds of boost to it. So it's nothing radical. But it should make really good power. This car, I went to California and bought this car. It's a 2x3 frame, Mustang 2 front end, ladder bars. It was a chassis that back when chassis engineering was in California, that you could buy, and just got put it all together. So it's a super cool car. I've always wanted one of these cars. Of course, the reason I've always wanted one of these cars ever since Ron Savory did what he did with his stuff. And his stuff was always NA stuff and stupid fast and impressive. But anyway, so I gave myself a deadline, because the whole reason I'm doing this is to take my mind off the Chevelle and everything else for a minute, and not think about, just try to focus on this. A little escape in my head. So, but I gave myself 2 weeks to have it done, or I got to stop. So, because I got to get back on the Monty Smith car. So, yesterday was day one. Pulled the motor out of the Chevelle, pulled the motor, pulled the transmission, set the motor down in this. Yesterday I was taking the old 5-inch headers that came off a Reaper, or off of the orange car, and I cut them all up and been making the headers. The other thing is, I got a $2,500 budget. Everything else I have to use stuff that's already here, that's already bought, that's already paid for. So when I went to put I ordered a side slinger bracket for it to run the FX12. When I put the D3 one on there, of course it hits right here and doesn't even come close. So I actually borrowed the drive off of Reaper, Red Reaper, and stuck it over here just to see if maybe it'll work. Of course it won't. It hits the rack and everything else. Same cause and effect stuff that you always go through with a car. One little change affects everything. So I'm scratching my head this morning. I'm gonna wait for the new bracket to come. Hopefully it lifts the bracket, sets a little higher on the motor to where it'll clear the down bars. But if it don't, I even dug the turbos out. Because I got 3 sets of turbo headers, and I thought, well, if one set of turbo headers fits that, I won't put turbos on it. Well, none of the turbos work. None of the turbo headers fit. So, that's what we're down to. The side slinger bracket's supposed to be here Monday. I'm going to try to put the FX12 on it, see if I can do it with the side slinger, see if everything works out. If not, I'm going to make a phone call to my boy Dave Vassar. This bitch fixing to have 3 kids on it. But one way or the other, I'm going to start wiring it today. It's going to be a pretty simple, straightforward car, so it shouldn't be, let me rephrase that, because I've always thought in the back of my head, if it's got tips or tires, you're going to have trouble. So, in theory, it should be a pretty easy project to do because it's a pretty simple car. It's not, there's nothing extravagant about it. And that was the whole idea from the beginning, was make it simple, use all the parts that I got around here, give myself a time frame to get it done, and we're off to the races. We'll see how this goes. More videos to come.